Okay,
Just go ahead.
so from my own perspective, the whole point of this podcast, the name even behind the podcast, the 5 to 9, is to explore career opportunities outside of your normal day-to-day job. You have a day-to-day job. Can you tell us what you do, Shihab?
So I'm a computer engineer. I wasn't always going to be a computer engineer, actually. I was looking into being an architect, but then a year into uni, shifted my focus onto computer engineering because, talking about passion in terms of a career, this is where my passion was, computer engineering. So that's has been my job for a while now, for I think almost 2 years now. And as a person who got a job fairly early on after graduating, I'd say that having, regardless of what we're gonna talk about right now, having a full-time job, especially early on after graduating, in a country like the UAE is something that's very important for someone who's young to have.
So what you were saying is someone who just went into college, did whatever field that they went in, it's important for them to instantly find a job. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, as long as it isn't the main focus. Like, for example, for me, my focus going out of uni was not just to find a job and settle in the job. Yes, finding the job was the priority, because having a 9 to 5 is good in terms of providing stability. You know exactly how much money you're going to be getting for the month. You have somewhere to be every single day. It's something good for someone young to have. But that wasn't the only focus, and it shouldn't be the only focus, especially if you're someone who is young, because that's an age where the opportunity that you have to have a side hustle, a 5 to 9, is pronounced. You're not gonna find an opportunity like that. As the older you get, the less the chances you're gonna get to find an opportunity like that.
Before we delve deeper into this topic, I think it's important to understand what a 5 to 9 is. So 5 to 9, from your own understanding, is a side hustle, something that is different to your daily job, different to your routine. But what it does essentially is help you explore your passions or the things that you love into a career, gain something out of it. And I want to actually talk about what you said is how important it is to find a job right after you graduate. Not necessarily something that you don't like, but something that perhaps is going to help you excel in another thing. About almost a year ago in October, I remember we went to a desert outing and you told me, Yusuf, when you graduate, I advise you not to go into the job market instantly. Take a break, deserve it. Don't rush straight into the job market. But I think that Shihab, that version of you versus that version of Shihab today, you would have told me to go instantly and find a job. Am I wrong, or is that true?
Yeah, it's surprising you bring that up, actually, because the version of me that was, I'd say even the beginning of this year, is a completely different version of myself now. And I think that's something everyone needs to look into, because as a person who's 22 years old, 23 years old, the phases of life that you go through compared to when, for example, you're 35 or 36, it's significantly more different. Like I would say I've gone through 2 different phases since the beginning of this year. So yeah, when I told you not to find a job immediately and relax, do your own thing, that's not something that current me would have said. Current me, like I told you, would have said, delve immediately, use your maximum capabilities, use the maximum potential, because you're not going to get the same potential again that you have now again. Delve into the job market, try your best to find a job, and at the same time, while you wait to have a job, don't just sit there idle and wait for the emails to come rolling in, because you are going to get rejected. That's just the truth of the job market that we have nowadays. While you wait to get a job, you need to look into how to not just have a 5 to 9 job or a side hustle, but you need to look into progressing yourself as a person, progressing yourself as Yusuf, or like I did. I looked into progressing myself as Shahab. Not just oh, I want something that makes money, but no, finding ways to improve yourself aside from actually having a 9 to 5 job. So yeah, that version of me is completely different from the version that you're talking with now.
The thing is, at the time, I honestly listened to what you had told me to lay back, relax, don't take any job. But almost any person that ever interviewed me for a job had told me by the end of it that don't sit idle at home. Take any opportunity that you can take, because an opportunity could always lead to another. And on top of that, I want to touch on the fact that there are people who have been sitting without a job for years. I mean, like my own mom tells me about some of her coworkers, children that have been sitting for like 2, 3, 4 years without a job. And at first you sympathize with them, but it's almost like, how can you not find anything to do for your own self the past 2, 3 years? I mean, I know it's only been almost a year since we had this conversation about careers, and I remember getting a phone call like 2, 3 months after I graduated in December about a job opportunity, which to me wasn't that exciting, even though it was in my field. I did electrical engineering, as you know, so it was in my field, but it was more on the marketing supervision side. But it was still an electrical engineering position, and I told myself, I'm not going to take it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get other opportunities, and what if I didn't expose myself to these other companies that much? I want to give myself a chance to expose myself, and looking back, couple of 6 months now, I wish I had taken that job. Not because it would have paid off for myself any sort of income, but, and this is something that we're going to delve into deeper, how your 9 to 5 job can like fuel your passions and goals. And I think you're one to talk about this, because what did you do after exactly graduating? Like the moment you graduated, what was going through your mind? What did you do? Where did you go?
So actually, like right before graduating, I was already looking into, getting into the job market and so on. But it's like you said, it's funny because you need to sometimes throw yourself at the opportunities as they come, make as many connections as you can have. Because I think personally, being someone who's young and, threw himself into the job market in the UAE, I don't think you can get a job without having connections. You can, but the chances are just extremely slim. You need to know someone who knows someone who knows someone, that kind of dynamic. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to find a job. So even before graduating, I was throwing myself at different opportunities, different chances, because I knew eventually after graduating, I don't want to sit idle, and I want to reduce the chances of having that. And my first job came by luck. One of my friends was like, there's a vacancy at one of my jobs, and I immediately threw myself at the situation. And I got my first job, and then through that, threw myself into another one, got another job. So it all comes down to exposing yourself to those opportunities. Because like you said, if, for example, you get a job opportunity that you don't specifically like, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to find another one, that tends not to turn out the way you expect it to. Because sadly, being someone who's young in the UAE, I would say that the term beggars can't be choosers applies to us. Youth, new graduates, all up until the age of, like, I'd say 29, were looked at as people who do not have too much experience or enough experience to be hired into the job market. So we can't really be choosers in terms of having a 9 to 5, and that segues into the point of, this is why youth working a 9 to 5 do not always have passion while doing their job, because we're like, systematically, if we don't throw ourselves at the first opportunity we get, regardless of whether or not we like that job or whatever, like you said you didn't like it, you weren't vibing with the opportunity, so you let it go. But mostly what the youth do is they throw themselves at the job, and that leads to themselves having a job or doing work that they are not specifically passionate about. Like for me, yes, I'm passionate about computer engineering, about solving issues, solving problems, programming, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a job that I threw myself at, that I desperately wanted to have. And there comes moments while doing that job where I think to myself, this isn't really what I want my life to be about. And at the end of the day, what we're discussing right now, the reason we're here right now is people these days, or young people these days especially, generally everyone should know this, but young people these days should really find what they want their life to be about. Do you really want your life to be about having a job for 30, 40, 50 years, working for someone else for 42, 45-hour weeks? Or do you want your life to be something of more meaning? At the end of your life, do you want people to know you for something specific, or do you want people to know you for just another person who has a job, who has a full-time job? So I think, it's very important to know the difference between the discipline of having a full-time job, like being disciplined in your full-time job, and also being disciplined in terms of your passion.
I think this is such a difficult thing to achieve because especially in the Arab world, I feel like we go through 12 years of school, and then we almost instantly by that time, we need to already have figured out a career choice. There isn't really some time to think about it. You kind of need to explore yourself in these 12 years. What do you exactly like? Where do you see yourself in the upcoming 5 years? I think something that is often lacked in our culture is vision. You need to ask kids where they see themselves in years' time. So when I was a kid, like the first question any stranger, friends would ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always told them, I want to be a pilot. But then when you reach a certain point, you start being conscious, and I realized it's such a big responsibility, or I didn't really like it that much. I mean, you ask a kid, what do you want to be? They want to be like an astronaut. And then they become at that age where they have to choose a career. And they're like, I don't want anything that deals with any mathematics or physics. I just want to do my own thing. Yeah. So the problem is there isn't really enough time between school and college to really decide what you want to do in life. And I feel like even the reason why you had told me at the time to not go into the job market instantly is to sort of connect with myself and see genuinely where do I want to go? What do I want to do in life? And looking back, I'm kind of glad I took some kind of break before taking any job. But at the same time, you feel for these people that genuinely went into a career that was kind of enforced on them. I mean, living in the UAE, we realized that the job market is not that, it is diverse, but the opportunities are not as, what's the word that I'm thinking of? They're not as open as you think they are. I mean, there's how many engineering?
There isn't everything for multiple people. It's just the scope of the genre of jobs, if you'd like to say that, is very narrow, which I agree with.
Exactly. I mean, some universities offers like degrees that I'm 100% sure there isn't a title for that degree that you can work as. There is no way you graduate and you work as this position when you graduate. And I think so many people have that, and they kind of have this closed mentality. Right, I graduated as this position. I will only be working as this position and this position only. And this is I feel like such a bad mentality. Yeah. You have to start somewhere, even if you're not exactly working as that, desired position. Yeah. And I think it should always help you fuel your passion. But before we talk about that, let's stay on the issue of parents enforcing a specific field on their children, or something like financial problems with some careers.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up because us being Arabs, growing up in an Arab country, coming from an Arab background, it's very common that the career options chosen by the child is not really chosen by the child, but chosen by the parent. And the child could be lucky in terms of that is actually what his passion is, and the passion could be could grow the more that they study that specific topic, it could grow on them. But then majority of what happens is when the parents want a specific path for the child because they think that, it's more financially stable, which, they do have a point. I'm not going to say they're completely wrong. Like, yes, being an engineer or a doctor is much more, you'd say, a stable career path compared to, other, like if you study different aspects. I'm not going to say anything so no one gets offended. You could say that, yeah, there is a bit more of a stable career path. But then again, it is just a career path for the child. It's not passion. It's not anything that they chose to do. And even if the child, removing any, parental opinions, but even if the child chose to go to a specific route, like for example me, it was completely my choice to go to computer engineering, because I knew it was a much more stable career opportunity. But then again, is it really my passion? Yes, at that point in time, I was passionate about it, but passions do keep changing. And like you said, if you ask a child what they want to be, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an astronaut, but then you move on later in life to, what do you want to be? Let's say that child became a more sociable person. They'd want to say, I want to be a content creator. I want to be, like what we're doing right now, I want to be a talker on a podcast. Let's say that child, became really interested in mathematics. I want to do something that has to do with mathematics. I want a master's in mathematics. I want to teach people. So passions keep on changing the more and more you go on in life. And that happened with me even after I got a job. Like, I was extremely passionate to be a computer engineer. And don't get me wrong, I am still passionate. But the passion does not remain the same over the course of a long period of time. The passion keeps on changing, especially if you're someone who's young, especially if you're someone who, doesn't think of a job as, that's something I can use to provide for my family. And that's also something extremely important when it comes to youth. Because youth these days, you do not have a family by the time you're 25. This is not 1990 anymore, or 1980s even. By the time you have children, you're going to be 35 years old, as a man especially. You're going to be 35. You're going to be, I don't think you're going to be less than 29 years old if you have a kid. So that's also a significant difference in today's day and age, is that as someone who's young, you do not have a family to care for. All you have to do is to take care of yourself, to look into your passions, and do not let that 9 to 5 be a cage. So I think that's the main reason that, especially with this talk that we're having, we're targeting youth instead of the general population.
And I think this is a pretty important topic because someone like myself, I used to kind of feel guilty or feel down that by the age of 22, I don't have a family. I still don't have like a stable kind of job that I have like a constant stable income from. But at the same time, I tell myself that every generation, the point of like parents is that they keep providing a better life for generation after generation. So
exactly.
You shouldn't necessarily feel guilty or bad for having what you have. In fact, I think what you said is if you have any sort of passion or goal and dream, you should like absolutely chase it. You should absolutely go for it. You've been given all these easy passes,
exactly.
as I like to call them. It's not really, there aren't really that many barriers. People can do anything from their own home. It's,
yes.
I think, very important to think about starting small. And what I also want to like talk about is your fitness journey. So obviously you weren't always into fitness, mm-hmm. but you changed a lot and decided you wanted to start your own career in fitness, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up because I believe you got like a certification in
yes.
fitness not too long ago. So was your goal to just, you wanted like an extra income, or you genuinely want to like help people get the shape that they desire, that the place where they want to be at?
So it's nice that you bring this up because I would not have been able to do that, if you'd call it side hustle. I would not have been able to undertake that challenge if I did not have a full-time job. So again, this circles back to the point that it's important to have a 9 to 5 because it can and it will help you boost yourself when you're trying to, look for other jobs to do, when you want to improve yourself. And that's what happened with me. Basically, like I told you, passions keep on changing. And a passion of mine that keeps on getting fueled more and more and more is fitness, is taking care of your health, taking care of other people's health, and that's what I want to do basically with my life. So eventually it got to a point where I asked myself, why am I not, getting serious about this? Like, yes, I've changed, I've transformed my body, I've changed myself. Fitness has become basically 95% of my life. But I want to help people. I want to help other people reach their own goals. I want to help change other people's lives because so many people these days don't understand the importance of fitness in life. So that is currently my biggest passion right now. So I was thinking to myself, I have all of this and I have a full-time job and alhamdulillah, I have a stable life. Why do I not want to fully commit to this? So I used the support that I could get from my full-time job. It was an expensive process. I got myself certified as a personal trainer because that is eventually what I want to do in life. I want to completely shift over to being a personal trainer, and I want fitness to be the majority of my life. So this comes back to the point that it's extremely important to have a 9 to 5 job to fuel your passions. So I wouldn't say to completely, ditch having a full-time job, but use it to further improve yourself. And don't just look into one aspect of life. Things could fail very easily. Your passions could come crumbling down. You could lose your passions even. So I would say don't put all your eggs in a single basket. Use the support that you can get from your full-time job to fuel every single part of your life where you think that you could actually have an opportunity to grow. Because for me, passion is not, fitness is not on the passion that I have in life. Obviously there are different other things. But it is very important to try to spread yourself out as someone who's young to see what can and what will work for you. And talking about the previous topic that we're talking about as well, these days, things are so easy for young people. You don't realize how easy life is for you. By the time you're even 27, 26, you're still living with your parents in a home that you don't pay for, with a job that provides you with money. You can buy whatever you want to buy. You can invest your money in whatever you want to invest your money in. I'm not even talking just stocks or whatever. Invest your money in yourself. People don't realize how easy it is to invest your money in yourself these days. By the time you're 27, 28, 29, still living with your parents, at that point in life, there is no excuse where you aren't earning yourself money through your own passion, through your own side hustle. Because, again, it's very important to reach to a point in life where you are working for no one else but yourself. I think this is the most important part of life that young people these days do not get. They just go with the flow. They get a 9 to 5 job and they think that's it. Their job is done. But no, you cannot spend your whole life working for someone else. I think it's extremely important to have a mindset early on where you want to get to a point in life. It doesn't matter when exactly you get to it, because you might start having a side hustle now, and by the time you're 30, you still don't have anything. But it's important that you try and you fail and you try and you fail and you try and you fail. And eventually you're going to get to a point in life where you are working for your own self. So I think, in terms of having a 9 to 5, use it to fuel the passion that you have. And that is exactly what I did.
Before I go on about how important it is, like you said, to have your own thing, having the mindset that by you're 29 or 30, if you're still living with your family, you're blessed to have that with you, to have your own thing. I want to cover 2 points, which is how to stay balanced in terms of doing your full-time job in a perfect manner. We always use the word ihsan, which is when you're working to perfection. You're doing your job regardless of whatever is happening, any side things happening in your life.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that while also trying to build something for your own self? That's what the 5 to 9 is. I'm pretty sure you're someone who started waking up. I'm not sure if you still do wake up like at 5 and like stay until 9 and then go to your job, but it's very important because people think that their day starts exactly when their job starts, an hour before your job starts. Now, how about you make it 2 hours? How about you make it 3 hours and start something for yourself, whatever it is. It can be another career. It can be something for your body. It can be an investment. It can be art even. It can be something like a hobby that you started as a kid.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to touch upon is by the time that you're 30 or 35, whatever age it is, that you start wanting to doing your own thing full-time, whether it's fitness, whether it's a business that you're the sole owner, you're the business owner of that thing. I think it's important. The thing that we don't see is there are genuinely people who love what they do, their job to the max. They love working inside of an office, whatever job it is, software engineering, designing, architect, whatever it is. So it's not a bad thing to step away and do your own thing, because in a way you're giving an opportunity to these people that genuinely love this thing to pursue it full time. So my own brother, I remember he once told me, like, he had this supervisor, been working for 10, 15 years at the airport. After some point, he left his full-time job to pursue fitness as a full-time. And I think it's the dream when you reach a point where you're doing the thing that you love the most every single day. It fuels you, it makes you want to wake up. And I think that's the ultimate goal in life.
Exactly. Yeah. So coming to the first point, where people, they wake up for their job, they do their job, they go back home, they rest a little, and then they go back to sleep, and then they repeat the whole cycle again. My advice to someone who's really young these days is your day starts when you want it to start. Your day is not dictated by your full-time job. Yes, it is. It takes up the majority of your day, but it does not dictate when your day starts and when your day ends. You choose that. You get to choose that because you have 24 hours in the day, 6 to 9 of which are, you use them to sleep, use them to rest. Sometimes you use it to eat. The rest of the time is you need to be able to maximize your own growth in that time. Yes, of course, obviously you're not going to be fully utilizing all the hours that you have, but you need to maximize the number of hours that you're using to improve yourself. Like you said, let that be an investment. Let that be studying. Let that be going to the gym. Let that be, getting more experience in terms of a certain activity. Whatever it may be, your job starts at 9, ends at 5. What you do before 9 o'clock and after you wake up, and what you do after 5 p.m. and before you sleep is completely up to you. And you cannot make an excuse and say that I'm too tired to do this, I'm too tired to do that. Because at the end of the day, like you said, there are people that genuinely enjoy their full-time jobs and they have no issues, enjoying and doing their full-time jobs.
Clearly born for it.
Exactly, yeah. So some people are just, they don't mind it. They have that mindset where if they have a full-time job, they go to their job, they fulfill their duties. Like you said, they do it with ihsan, as everyone else should.
They enjoy it.
Yeah, they enjoy it. They go back home to their families. That's it. If that's your mindset, so be it. But that is a very important point to realize, is that people like these are the reason that other people with different mindsets can succeed in life, in terms of having your own business, your own hustle. Again, I'm not saying that people who have full-time jobs are not successful. No, if you have a full-time job, you can have a full-time job, you can rise in the ranks, you can, be the best version of yourself that you can be, work with the maximal, like you said, ihsan. Do the job that you are paid to do at the maximum level that you can provide. Yes, you can do that. That is also another form of hard work. But if you do not want to do that, that leaves space and capacity for you to move some of that hard work from your full-time job to actually working on yourself. So I think it's very important to, yes, focus on your full-time job. Do it at the best of your capability.
Of course.
But the time before that job and the time after that job, that's completely up to you. And if you want to make an excuse and say that you do not have enough time, or you work too hard at your own job, or you're too sleepy when you go back home, at the end of the day, you're not making excuses to anyone else but yourself. It's not going to harm anyone else but you. It's not going to, I wouldn't even say harm, because again, there is no harm in just having a full-time job. It wouldn't hinder or hold back anyone else but you. So yes, do your full-time job with the best of your capability, but also try to manage your time to put some work into yourself as well.
I think people don't realize how much free time they actually have once they start waking up a bit earlier than usual. And it's not something that many of us are normally used to. Like I said, when you're constantly going through changes really fast, you go through high school, you instantly go to college, and then you're instantly kind of forced to get a job. You kind of don't really have that time to just sit with your own self, no distractions, no nothing. I want you to sit in a room, just an absolutely white room, nothing absolutely in that room, and just think for an entire hour. What are you good at? What do you want to do in life? Is there anything that fuels you? Is there anything that you think that you're good at, or you used to be good at, and you want to bring back? And also one more thing that it might be a bit, maybe not that relevant, but it's, so I'm part of a group on WhatsApp for like graduates from my university, and they wanted to, hop on a game of paddle, play some paddle. And it's just like, it's like any kind of sport. It's just like any kind of sport. It can't be that difficult to learn. And so everyone was thinking, instead of just going there and play, I don't know how to play. I want to learn. I want to learn how to play it. I don't want to just throw myself there and learn it by myself. No, I want to learn. I want to learn it from scratch. I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing to ask for help, to, if you're interested in something, trying to learn it the right way, trying to start it the right way. I'm pretty sure you're also someone who went through that. It's not bad to have the mentality to always want to learn from people. I think many people don't realize how important it is to be this like sponge that is always absorbing information sometimes. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're not always chasing after the things that we want, is because we're not listening enough. We're not surrounding ourselves with people that are putting these good inputs into our minds. And one thing that I always do, and I've been doing it for such a long time, is going for walks at night to just clear up my mind. I'm just by myself and try to think of things that I want to do. And many times I just leave my phone at home, and it really helps. It really helps you find who you are, who you want to be, and what you can do with your free time. If people actually start doing that, they'll realize they're meant for so much more, so much more.
Exactly. I really like that point, because thinking is a huge part of actually realizing what you want to be. Because like you said, life is so chaotic and you do not get time to think for yourself. But
more chaotic than ever.
Yeah, especially now, these days, especially for youth these days, if you have a full-time job, it is extremely chaotic. But if you have that little bit of time to think for yourself in a day, it all starts with a single thought. Like most of the things that I'd say, the big steps that I took in life, it all started with a single thought that sparked up a feeling, and that feeling sparked up the need for me to do it. That need for me to do it turned into a passion, and that passion was just, it kept on getting driven and driven the more I thought about it. So I think it's extremely important for people to just slow down, put on the brakes, even for just 15 minutes. Think to yourself about yourself. Are you somewhere where you want to be? Is this someone who you're satisfied with? Are you satisfied with yourself? And that's, like you said, going on walks. You're doing two good things at a single time. You're moving, which is an extremely good thing to do, and you're thinking. That's something even I started doing, is that when I'm going on these long runs, runs where I have 2 hours, 3 hours to think. When you're running, you do nothing but think. I sometimes do these runs not just for getting my distances in, or just for the whole fitness, but I do them to think. Because in those, imagine you're thinking for 2 hours, 3 hours. how many single thoughts could come into your head at that point in time? So those thoughts and those, I would call them therapy sessions that you sit, nothing but you and yourself. You're sitting with yourself, you're talking to yourself. The changes that could occur to your mindset in those moments in time are extremely, I wouldn't even just say beneficial, they're life-changing. It could change your
Very
life.
crucial.
Yeah, it's very important to sit by yourself and just think about yourself. Is there somewhere where you want to be? What would you do to change where you want to be? What would you do to improve yourself? What would you do to do this, to do that, to do? I could just count at least 100 thoughts that I could spell out right now to do with me and myself and with where I want to be in life that I could have in a span of 15 minutes. So yes, slowing down is very important where you want to think about yourself and where exactly you want to be. But let me ask you this. When exactly or what moments in the day do you think are the best for someone to just sit and think? Because like you said, life is extremely chaotic. And people these days do not like to be alone. They do not like feeling lonely. So aside from, going on walks or doing something that, other people would not like to do, like not all people like to have walks, what do you think are the best moments in the day where I could just sit and think by myself, or not even sit, whatever you do, just think to myself about myself?
It's a great question because you generally don't realize how clear and fresh your mind is when you've just woken up and you don't have a job to go to still. So one thing that always, even like my own physics teacher from high school used to tell us, and he used to mock a lot of us because, we're high school kids, we stay up all night, and we're not really, following a protocol, we're not studying at the right time. So it would always like mock us and make fun of us that the kids that study at night, it's usually useless and it doesn't make sense because you wake up, you go through your entire day, your mind is like filled. It's already filled, it's the stress, there's so much going on in your mind. So it's almost useless to study at night. You genuinely don't absorb the knowledge as much as you do when you just like wake up in the morning. And it's such a true thing, and I've gone through that. So when is a good time to just sit there and think would genuinely be any time that you've just woken up and you have this time to yourself where you're not going to any sort of occasion. If you know you're going to wake up one day and you have a thing to go to, wake up 2 to 3 hours before it. Wake up 5 hours before it. I think the earliest to you waking up, or I would say the furthest you are from connecting with people. I think it's very important. And we live in such a extroverted environment all the time. You don't realize how much it matters to sometimes disconnect and give yourself that thinking environment, and how important it is to actually wander. One of the reasons why I go on these walks, or I used to go on these walks before I turned them to runs, like you started running as well, is you sort of come up and find problems wherever you go. When you're constantly living in a comfortable environment, you sort of don't find any problems. Like, alhamdulillah, we have everything delivered to us. We have water delivered to our doorstep, electricity above our head, ceiling. There's so many things you don't realize you're missing when you start going out and seeing the world for how it is, and seeing other environments as well, and seeing how much people struggle. And something that I actually did was I hopped on a Zoom call and was part of like some consultation talking about how universities in South America actually don't get enough support in general. Even though they have the most resources, they don't get enough support when clearly they have more problems. Clearly they are in places that are... coming back to my point, these countries that are in poverty, some of the most innovative solutions comes from them, and amazing leaders come from these countries because they lived in this poverty, they lived in these problems, and they came up with solutions for them. So you should go outside and you should wander and watch problems as they arise and try to come up with solutions for them.
Yeah, I think you brought up two great points. Is that one point when the best part of the day to form your thoughts and even plan ahead is immediately when you wake up, when your mind is clear. But what do we do the first thing we wake up? This. You just, yeah, you check your even when you don't even check your notifications. Sometimes, I do it even. Sometimes I just wake up and the first thing I open is Instagram Reels because it stimulates my mind. But I think a very important, I'd say, alternative to it is to stimulate your mind with your own thoughts. And again, going to somewhere and doing something that helps you stimulate your own self with your own thoughts is very important. And that, for many people, is somewhere that's uncomfortable to go to. And that brings us to a much more important point when it comes to going to places where you do not know where it would lead, which at the end of the day is what a 5 to 9 is. You do not know what's going to happen. You do not know if that business is going to fail or succeed. Yeah, it's a risk. At the end of the day, it's a risk. And that risk is uncomfortable. So that leads us to the critical point that we need to learn how to be uncomfortable. It's a learning process. Being uncomfortable could start like we talked about with a thought. Thinking is uncomfortable. Imagine sitting alone by yourself for 15 minutes and thinking. That's uncomfortable. It could start from that. Sit in your own room, 15 minutes, nothing happening. Switch your phone off. Switch your lights off if you have to. Think for 15 minutes. That's uncomfortable.
You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And once you get comfortable with that, you can move it a step further. You can go for a walk and think. Once you get comfortable with that, you can go for a run and think. It doesn't even have to be thinking. It could be anything else. Just as long as you provide yourself with doses of discomfort to the point where you're comfortable with them. And that dose keeps on getting higher and higher and higher to the point where actually being uncomfortable becomes an addiction or becomes a need to a person. And that's I would say, where the passion comes from. Because passion, at the end of the day, is not always for something that is easy. Passion is for something that you are willing to risk a lot of things to achieve. This is passion in my own definition. So I think that's where discomfort is an extremely important part of having a side business or building yourself in terms of having a 5 to 9. It's a very important part of the process.
I think it's very important to also realize when I think they're talking about when you wake up and you have this urgency to just check your phone instantly. It's just become dialed into our minds. And it's also become like a phobia for some people. You lose your phone. Anyone that loses their phone, my data,
you panic.
You panic, and that's a normal thing. And it's sort of, it is like a disease, and you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Say you're just sitting by yourself. You feel your hand, it wants to reach in. It wants to see any notification that you heard, the sound.
It's because it's uncomfortable to be alone. And again, it's when you are alone, this is where I think real growth happens, especially also when you're in the process of building your own business or something. Sometimes you're going to feel excluded from the other people around you, especially if they don't have the same mindset as you. And especially with how many hours of the day you're going to be spending working on yourself in that specific manner, you're not going to have time for your friends like you used to. You're not going to have time to socialize. So yes, like you said, when we wake up and we don't have our phones, when we cannot interact with the people around us, with the people outside of our world, we start panicking because it's not nice to be alone. It's not nice to feel different. But at the end of the day, I think this is where you should be comfortable you should be comfortable being alone. I think that's something that's very important to be feeling.
One thing I want to brush on before we reach a conclusion is the cap or fact segment that we have. Which is one of them is
the fun segment.
The fun segment. 85% of people are disengaged at work. Stat or fact?
85%. I'd say even more, if not just 85% of being disengaged at work is part of work. I'd say.
As comes to the fact, you talked about it as well. You talked about how when you're doing something that you're not entirely passionate about, it's your job. You just have to do it, but you don't like it, and. This is just the nature. This is just the nature of life.
It's the nature of having a job, but like you said, yes, we should be doing our jobs with ihsan, with the maximum of our capability. But yeah, eventually we're gonna get disengaged from something that we don't have passion for.
Okay, another one that I'm gonna talk about right here is 70% of UAE work lifestyle is sedentary, and obviously
70% of
UAE lifestyle is
lifestyle or jobs?
um, it's not lifestyle, but I'm pretty sure I'd say like jobs.
Is that actually a stat?
It
Or
is
is it a cal?
no, the lifestyle is actually it's an actual stat.
70% of
No, I
UAEs.
believe it's the work. It's the work. Sorry, I believe it's the work.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah, because now these days everything is on the computer, everything is on the laptop, you're sitting and doing everything. So that also ties in well with what we talked about, going on walks and thinking. That's two things that's extremely good for you. For someone like me who's doing their whole fitness thing, I lose my mind when I'm sitting for even 50 minutes. Sitting down for 50 minutes, can you imagine that? For me, that sucks. I cannot sit down for that long. So that's also something that destroys our youth these days, is that all the jobs these days are sedentary. So you're sitting down, you're comfortable, you're not moving, you're not doing anything, and that just kills you slowly. I cannot imagine doing that for that long.
It's also like comes back to how can you like discipline your mind? It's just like the whole idea behind just leaving your phone behind, just causing your hand to like stop checking constantly these stimulants, these alerts. And it's one thing that I counter it is just by reading. It's not the fact that I enjoy reading, though I do, but it's just genuinely a gateway for me to stop constantly checking my phone. I've like noticed constantly that it's, you notice these things when you generally sit by yourself alone, you notice these things. So everyone is like, you have to do something about it. You have to do something to stop that disease from spreading.
Yeah, it's again part of being comfortable being alone, being comfortable. Like, just sometimes you gotta be comfortable not doing anything for you to actually start doing something. I think that's something important that people have to realize these days. But yeah, this is how you build your 5 to 9. You have to be comfortable just being alone with yourself, because at the end of the day, it's just you building you. No one else is helping you. You're not helping anyone else. It's just you building you, and you gotta be comfortable with that.
And I think just a piece of advice to people that are, people that genuinely graduated out of college and went straight into the job market, much like you, is no matter where you end up, is, try waking up a bit earlier, plan your day. If you have we talk about dreams and goals, how you can't have one without the other. So if you have a dream, you need to have a goal. Set tasks every day, step by step. You can perhaps, at least if you don't make a career out of the side hustle, then at least it makes your daily job less miserable. At least you have something to look forward to, your 5 to 9 at least.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah. So I think to conclude this whole segment, I'd say the advice I would give to the majority of the youth these days is to be comfortable, to be in that state of mind where you need to improve, because it's not a comfortable thing to admit to yourself that you're not where you want to be in life, that you're not at the maximum of you're not working to the maximum of your capability. It's not a comfortable thing to admit to yourself. So you should be comfortable admitting that to yourself. That's the first step. And you get that through having moments in the day where moments of clarity where you sit and think about yourself, think about how you want to see yourself, and be comfortable throwing yourself at opportunities where you don't even think are going to be fruitful, but just you never know what happens. Just throw yourself at everything you see, throw yourself at every opportunity you can get. That is in terms of a 9 to 5 or a 5 to 9, because both of them, like we were talking about, is extremely important. And that would be the piece of advice that I would give to youth these days.
To add to what you said on top of it, honestly, you shouldn't really isolate yourself whatsoever. Isolation in general, it's not entirely good for you to be isolated from everyone. In fact, the people that live to their hundreds and 110s and like 90s, they,
Yeah.
you know, they become really old. They always talk about how important it is to just be kind and spend time with like good people. And so I'm not telling people to become lonely and just isolate themselves from everyone, but you know, try to be more out there instead of in here.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a lot more important than we think. And to wrap up, honestly, I'm hoping that the 5 to 9 essentially becomes part of people's lives as well. And hopefully one day someone's 5 to 9 can become their 9 to 5, and they have their own business. And
That's the goal. That's the plan.
this is the plan. In the upcoming episodes, we'll obviously like talk with people who have their own 5 to 9s, their own side careers, their side hustles,
And again, I want to add to just one more point, that a 5 to 9 does not have to be something that is, you know, it's successful. That is, does not have to be something that's bringing you in a revenue stream. But it's amazing if it does, but it just doesn't have to be. It could be literally anything from taking care of yourself to running a full-time business. That's it.
Okay.
That's what I want to end with.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
I think that this is a conversation that is very much needed to have between you and I as friends, and to have it out there to the people, something to listen to.
Before I end, you obviously know I've sent this guy so many voice notes on WhatsApp that were intended to be mini podcasts, conversations. I'm talking about 6-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute
Yeah.
long voice notes, and he would listen to them and like conversate back to me in like a form of podcast. So it's about time we kind of brought it out in person and shared it with other people as well.
I genuinely cannot wait for, you know, all of the conversations that we're gonna have to be out there for people to listen to, for the young people to listen to, because oh my God, the number of podcasts talking about trends and celebrities and I don't know what, is brain rot at this point to listen to that kind of stuff. So I think we need podcasts that actually have value, that have material to them.
Exactly, and we plan on like bringing guests that are obviously experts in these fields and obviously more knowledgeable than we are possibly. And we hope that you guys keep on watching and supporting us. And that will be our first ever pilot starter episode of the 5 to 9.
Yep.
And
Can't wait to have many, many more.
inshallah. And I hope to see you guys.